Gwen Witherspoon. Let me go back. Go back. I want to welcome you to Vivid Talk Live. I'm your host, Gwen Witherspoon. I'm the Principal and Chief Visionary Officer of Adam Red and Atlanta Branding Agency. I'm a brand strategist and a Better Life Coach. Vivid Talk Live is all about your personal and professional development, and I'm here to help you learn a fresh way of thinking and doing for all you were designed to build. There we go. Hopefully you heard that. You can watch live Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on your favorite social networks or on my website at gwenwitherspoon.com, where you will also find the replays. Now, do you want to figure out where you're going? Tonight, I'm going to talk about why you need and how to develop a map for your personal brand. A map that plots your productivity, your identity, your influence, and your impact. So please introduce yourself in the comments. Your questions are welcome. Ron is helping me monitor the chat. Thank you so much for joining. Please share the link to invite your friends. Tell them about the replays, and we will get right into it after this. We had a big week last week. So right now, what I want to make sure you do is follow at Gwen Fuchsias on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Periscope, and Gwen Witherspoon Coach on YouTube. But we had a giant week last week, and I moved all the equipment around, and literally moments before the countdown was done, I went, wait, the microphone light is not on. Hilarious. I love it how every week gives me an opportunity to learn something new, whether I want to or not. So this is it. It just makes me giggle. I don't panic anymore, which I think is a good thing, right? So I also want to make sure, as always, that you have an opportunity that I show you the website, just in case this may be your first time. So you can find out everything you need to know about me at gwenwitherspoon.com. And you can read blog posts. You can see those there. You can watch live, and you can find your favorite social network links if you're interested. But you don't really have to do all that. You can just go straight to the website and get everything that you need. Last week's episode is always featured on the bottom of the homepage, and you can click the Watch More Replays buttons to find the replays page. We are on, I think this is episode 32. It's amazing how one moment you can go from this dream, this idea of a live broadcast quality live streaming show, and then move to pure to planning and plotting every possible step and finding equipment, and then moving into sheer terror to now it's like breathing, and I'm just there's an unlimited assortment of topics. So I'm excited about what I've been able to share so far, and I think that they really are episodes that will help you tremendously as you just really learn how to make your own personal vision vivid, and I want to help you do that. There is also my blog that you will find there this week, actually, which I usually do not I don't blog about the same things I talk about in the show, but this week they have a connection. So this week's blog post is something to guide you. Once again, I pulled something from the archives and just brought it into the current future, the present, and this one, there's something to guide you is about what I call the flip map when it comes in my flip productivity life, and that is about mission, vision, value. So I'll cover some more of that tonight. And also you can contact me here, just everything that you need to know about Gwen Witherspoon, the coach, you can find here on the website. Okay. Every time I go over to another screen, sometimes I have a little trouble getting back. So here we go. So awesome. This is so funny. I feel like You know what? You know why tonight feels a little strange too? Is because we did have such a crazy week last week that last week I didn't do the show live. So it's hilarious. Now it does feel a little different. I feel like I haven't been here in a while. And it's because I haven't. As I missed a week of live broadcast. I pre-recorded the show last week because we had a crazy schedule. So anyway, I'm pretty giddy about this topic because I don't know. It just I love how it's come together. And I think that, when we're coming up on the new year, when we're trying to figure out what it is we do every day, how we function, what matters, how do you spend your time? How do you say no? What do you say yes to? I mean, there's so many questions. What would make your life better? I'm always asking that question. What do you want? What is your vision? What is your purpose? What problem were you born to solve? Like there's this long list of questions that we need to be able to answer just at every stage of our own growth and development, and at every stage of the growth of our companies, our projects, our ministries, our organizations. You have to be able to really look inside yourself and do that internal work, not work on yourself and work on whatever it is you're building, so that you can really manage the growth, right? Because you're going to grow one way or the other. There's one of my mentors, my mentors in my head, that always says, if you're not moving forward, you're moving backwards. So you are going in some direction, but we want to try to make forward momentum, make progress. We don't want to, go backwards, right? And I think that one of the things that's so important for us to do as builders and innovators and leaders and entrepreneurs is for us to learn how to write our vision, you got to write it on paper first. You got to get it out of your head. You will never get it clear if it's in your head. We can think about things for years and have some general ideas around it, but it'll never become clear until you write it down. But when you write it down, it's not clear then either. Writing down the action of writing something down by itself does not make it clear, doesn't make it vivid. What makes it's writing is a process. Like writing your vision is a process. And I define that process with using my vivid model. And that's why we're Vivid Talk. And I use that vivid model as a way to help you understand the process, to simplify the process. It doesn't mean that the work in the middle of the process is any simpler, but I think it does provide some clarity for you to use to make progress. Okay. And so if we're going to write our vision, I think, vision is about, we have to fill the gap between where we are right now and where our vision is out in the future. And I'm always talking about that vision has got to be bigger than you. It's got to be something that you cannot accomplish. If it's something that you know how to do, it may be a big project even that you know how to do, then it's really not a vision per se. That may be a goal or an objective, a strategy, but it's not necessarily a vision. A vision is far bigger than you, something you can't accomplish by yourself. And it's going to require a journey. It's going to require some growth. And so that I call it the wisdom gap, the gap between where you are right now and where you want to be, where that vision is taking you, that positive future that you see in front of you. I call that gap the wisdom gap. And we want to fill that gap, that wisdom gap, with a lot of things. Some knowledge. You got to gather information. You have to create some plans, develop some goals, define some strategies, find the tools you need. There's so many different steps that you need to take, but all of that is part of writing your vision. Okay. And that even that speaks to a journey, right? While this journey, this life that we're in, I was talking to somebody and they said we were talking about the flip productivity system that I've created. And the flip productivity system is about part of the productivity piece of that is that you want to separate everything into projects. And we were talking about it or I was talking about it with regard to business, to entrepreneurship, to what you're building. And when it came down to it, somebody said, well, shoot, life is a project. and that is the bottom line. Everything that we do literally is a project. And so we need to learn how to manage projects at every level. And no matter what type it is, those internal projects, those external projects, those projects that impact other people. And ultimately, all of those things, all those elements together form your vision. And so when you are going on this journey, and you are the most central and important part of this in the whole thing. I know in the past, I've always thought that the vision was the most important. If I can build this vision, the vision is everything. I'm going to prioritize this because this is impacting so many other people and doing so much good. Yeah, but you are the beginning point. You are the foundation. You are the main ingredient of the vision, right? There's going to be other things that you need because you can't do it by yourself, but it still begins with you. I had the privilege of meeting a gentleman who is considered the largest, the biggest angel investor in the state of Georgia. And I was going through some old notes and looking at, I was going through my old notes and I saw something that he said about, that he was betting on the jockey, not the horse. As an angel investor, that was his objective. And that helped me see how important, that helped me see how important that you are as a visionary. And I've often heard that angel investors, venture capitalists, that people that look for businesses to invest in, they are looking for the entrepreneur. They're looking for the team. They're looking at the people involved in it, right? And they want to see who you are, what's your character, what's your track record. And track record doesn't necessarily mean a string of successes. Track record could be how you handled failure. What did you do? How did you come back? What did you learn from that? But at the end of the day, it comes down to who you are, because you can have all kinds of ideas, but if you don't have the right people working to implement those ideas, then they'll go nowhere. And so if I'm going to invest my money, and I love that when I saw it, I'm going to bet on the jockey. Because the jockey is the one, if the jockey is experienced and really knows how to get the best performance out of that horse, out of that athlete. You think about teams, major athletic teams. How often do they fire the coach? Quite often, right? It's like when the team is failing, they're holding that coach accountable, because the coach needs to know how to get top performances out of star athletes. And even star athletes need coaches. I always talk about that. That's a side point. But you are central to this story. Who you are, where you're going, what you want, how you're going to go about doing it, how you respond, how you think, all of those things are critical. And so in order for us to navigate that gap between where you are and where you want to be, you need a map. You need a map. And, and when I was thinking about maps, I was like, okay, what are the qualities of a map? Like, what is it about a map that is helpful? And I looked it up, and there were several different, results. Some said there were 3 primary elements. Some said 7. Some said 9. So, I've kind of put together this list that I felt like would be a great part of this analogy to just even help you understand why you need a map. Okay. And one is it needs a title. Hi, Veronica. So your map needs a title, and a title essentially is a succinct description, succinct descriptive text of the subject matter. And I have a series of documents. I love charts and graphs. If you know anything about me, I love them, and they have to be pretty. But I have these 3 charts that I've created on 11 by 17 sheets, and these 3 sheets we'll be using in the Flip Productivity Workshop on December 27th. So if you have not registered, I need you to go ahead and do that, because just like I said, the even star players, star performers, they need a coach. And so no matter who you are, even me, the host of Vivid Talk Live with this proprietary coaching, corporate DNA matrix, my proprietary Vivid model, all these things, my propensity and motivation to teach and train and develop, my thought leadership, even me, with all of that, I still need help developing my own personal vision. And so sometimes, you can find somebody who can help you, like they've gone somewhere you haven't gone, or understand something that you don't understand. Or even they see something different from you. You may have the same base of knowledge, but just their perspective can help propel you forward, as opposed to, just being self-reliant, which if you are a builder, you are self-reliant. You are an innovator. You are a self-starter. You are motivated to make a difference, to make a change. So no one has to make you get up and function. You are resourceful. But even then, you still need help, because sometimes being resourceful can almost it's a blessing and a curse, right? Every positive has a negative. And the positive is that you can make anything happen. I hate sitting around waiting for somebody to do something for me. I can't stand it. And even when I need help, I'll go look for it. But if for some reason that situation doesn't work out, I'm going to push and push and push until I find out some way to move forward, to learn more, to grow, to develop, to do something so that I can get that thing done. But being that way can also keep setting you back, because you can end up spending so much time, like spinning your wheels, when somebody else's insight even into what you're already doing, can help move you forward. And so that's the goal for the Flip Productivity Workshop and I wish I had a sexier title, but I just feel like it's going to be so important for you to have an opportunity to go through and even to make you think differently about your own situation. I got my MBA, which I probably have mentioned many times. I got my MBA when I was 50. And one of the reasons that I wanted to do it was not because I was trying to make a lot more money or get a specific job or qualify for some next thing. I did it because I wanted an opportunity to develop personally in a way that I couldn't do on my own. I spent my entire adult career developing and really kind of winging it, right? Like growing just by trial and error, and by being thrown in the fire over and over again. And I felt like I'd made a lot of progress and I was happy about where I was, but I felt like doing a defined course of study would help me to do things. It would force me to do things that I wouldn't do on my own, that would help develop muscles that I hadn't developed yet. And what I found was, it not only did it do that, but it also helped confirm some things that I had believed about myself, and helped me just kind of recalibrate so that I could move forward with more confidence. And that's what I want to help you do with the Flip Productivity Workshop. And I'm calling it a 3-hour intensive. And I know in this world where our attention spans are getting shorter and shorter and shorter, and the idea of sitting somewhere for 3 hours sounds kind of painful, but I think that 3 hours could be so concentrated and packed and help you really move forward in a meaningful way. And so that's my goal. So we're going to be using, among other things, some other tools that I've created, but we'll be using these maps that I've created. And so and I went into that long explanation, because when you talk about qualities of a map, one is a title, a succinct, descriptive text of the subject matter. So I have 3. So one would be your influence map. and I'll go into these later. The second would be, your identity map, your influence map, and your impact map. And we would start that with a flip map. So there are 4 titles or 4 types of maps that I think you need to create for your personal brand. Okay. And then the second quality of a map is direction. And so all of the results that I found and the descriptions that I found talked about, a north arrow. We know that a compass is, it positions, the north is its, its basis, it's its base for functioning, right? So there's a direction. And it also talked about, in a couple of different versions, descriptions that I saw, it also talked about like dimension, because the maps have kind of layers to them. And I think that kind of speaks to this idea of your productivity, your identity, your influence, because there's depth to you. You're not a one-dimensional being. There's more happening than what's on the surface. And there's just so much to building who you are, to defining that, and to developing that in a meaningful way. So I think when you think about a map and direction, that it covers a compass, it covers dimension, it covers really kind of this grid that you're going to use to build your personal brand. And then the third quality is a legend of symbols. And I think if you think about, color keys and just the actual markings on a map, I think your personal brand map needs to have some kind of a legend to it that helps you understand even how it works, so that you can use it as a really good sound tool. And then the fourth quality of a map is distance or scale. And then that's where we talk about dimension. Okay, distance or scale. And I was thinking about it, and I said, well, on your personal brand map, you really can't totally define what the distance is going to be, or completely understand the scale. But I think that helped me really understand that, or just come to recognize, I think in your flip map, in your maps that we're going to go through for you, I think we can talk about it in terms of time frames. Like you can set some goals and some objectives and utilize just other outside resources to help you kind of get a framework for how much time you want to devote to something, or how long you think it might be. Just because you create a time frame doesn't mean that you're locked into that forever. I think it does, though, help you. Sometimes it can help you settle down, because if you think of something in terms of, if you think about what has happened for you and through you in the last 10 years, then thinking 10 years forward might not be as scary, because you may look back over the last 10 years and realize that you really have made a lot of progress, or that doesn't feel as long as you thought 10 years. Like if you think about 10 years into the future, that seems like a long time. But when we look back and you think about how fast, even 2020, it has flown by. Like we're almost done. So the fact that, we need to, I think, take a more sober look at time, and not be intimidated by long time frames, or even by short ones, that we just learn how to skillfully and confidently apply principles to how we think about time and how we make plans, and that we learn how to celebrate every step of the way, instead of, I'm 57. I talk about that all the time. And I could very easily say, man, I should be further along, right? But I think I'm right on time, and I feel like I'm just getting started, and I'm learning now to just really enjoy all of it, enjoy the process and the steps. And I've heard of people, an artist in particular who's over 100 years old, and she's spent her entire life, 100 years, her at least 50 or more than that, probably 70, 80 years of her adulthood creating art, and not getting recognized at all. And really just doing it for the love, and building this portfolio of work. And now she's getting 6-7 figures for her artwork, and she's in a wheelchair. And it just really reminded me that it's just never too late for anything. And your potential and the possibilities that are ahead for you are limitless. And so learning how to just be able to plan, imagine, and think about time in a different way, so that in distance, that would be a really vital tool for your map. And then the other is labels. And those labels kind of help you understand where you are, in the scope of it all. So title, direction, legend, distance, and labels. And so those are the 5 qualities of a map. And then your map begins with a survey. Those guys, they have the tripods and they're looking through those things in construction. They're surveying, right? They're surveyors. And so oftentimes, the basic tools that I go back to over and over are personality profiles. And so there are several profiles that I recommend. And those profiles, the results from those are really great tools to use as you define your identity, your influence, and your impact maps. So now, when we talk about developing your personal brand map, told you I have the Flip Productivity System. And on the plan side, the slogan for Flip Productivity is plan, produce, play. Plan your work, produce what you've planned, spend more time at play. We talked last week about living your life at play, and several other episodes. And play, I love to say, is delightfully being while, okay, of course I wouldn't be able to remember it off the top of my head. Where is it? Hold on. I want to make sure I get that out because I should know that. But we're going to go ahead and pull out my trusty files. Effectively doing while delightfully being. Okay, that is play. And that's where we want to get to, learning how to live our lives at play. And so on the plan side of the flip book, it's planning on one side, you flip it over, and it's producing on the other. On the plan side, there are 5 worksheets that cover the vivid model: vision, identity, voice, information, and development. And then at the end of that, there's what I call the flip map. And the flip map, it covers your mission, vision, and values. So that's the first map that you want to create: mission, vision, and values. And I love definitions, and you know that. Mission is an important assignment. So you want to define what your important assignment is with regard to what it is you are building. It's just not generic mission. This is what specifically are you trying to build, and then what is your mission toward that thing that you're trying to build, okay? And then vision is the ability to think about or plan the future with imagination or wisdom. So we're using our maps to plan the future. And then values, basic and fundamental beliefs that guide or motivate your attitudes and your actions. And I talk a lot about your actions, and your values are that which is good, desirable, and worthwhile to you. Not good, desirable, and worthwhile to everybody else, how everybody else defines good. How do you define good? And you have to take the time to work through that for yourself. And I say, we want to break your values down into 3 words, right? Not any big long paragraphs and prose. We just 3 words. What are those 3 primary words that summarize your fundamental beliefs? So that's the first map. The second is your identity map. Your identity map covers your unique thinking pattern. Again, I have the brain map online assessment I use is a really great tool because it helps you identify your unique thinking profile and other kind of patterns of thinking and how others perceive you. So many different really great pieces of information that you can use to understand yourself. And of course, as you learn more about yourself using a tool like that, you get to learn more about other people as well. And so it strengthens your relationships just across the board with yourself and with others. Then your identity map also, we want to talk about your basic behavior style or style of behavior, your instinctive response to pressure, like those kinds of things. We want to sort through that. And then your fears. I'm super positive and just have always been that way. I think I'm naturally, even my blood type is B positive, right? So I just feel like I have a propensity for positivity. However, I'm like anybody else. I still have fears. And I think when you're super, super positive, it's easy to us to kind of bury your fears, like put them under a rug because you're like, oh, you're so busy being positive that you're not even thinking about that. But that doesn't mean that those things don't still impact you and influence you and really stop you. So I think it's important to be able to identify what your fears are, and then your motivations. Motivations are the things, just if you look at the word, break it down, motivation, motive, um, what is your, what are the things that make you move, your those core ideas, those internal things that actually get you up and going. You want to define those. I love to use Discover Your God-Given Gifts by Don and Katie Fortune. It is a phenomenal book about spiritual gifts. And there are 3 categories of gifts outlined in the Bible, but the first one that I really love is called personality gifts by some people and motivational by others. I like to call them motivational gifts because they speak to what I think are just like the foundation of just who you are as a person, the thing that makes you move in general, and identifying that and defining those and the intensity or strengths. I think we all have all of them, but I think that we definitely have some primaries. And when you start understanding kind of how those are split up in your own makeup, that's it's a superpower to understand those things about yourself. Then the other is strengths. I love the Clifton Strengths Finder 2.0 online assessment as well. Talks about your top 5 strengths. And I love that assessment because it also, if you and I have the same, like number 1, the top strength, the results are different. Like the descriptions of each of those are different because of our own differences and how our other strengths that we have impact that. So I think that's really unique. I don't know how they made that happen. And then values, which I talked about. I think once you define what those top 3 values are, we can use them in your flip map, and we can also use them in your identity map because they are such a core part of who you are. And the last piece is your calling. And I think we often ask people, what's your purpose? And it's a hard question to answer just out the gate, but we're going to work our way up to it, because if you don't understand the difference between your purpose, your calling, your motivations, your inspiration, like if you don't understand those things, it can be very confusing and chaotic. And so what we want to do is we want to minimize and eliminate as much chaos as we possibly can, so you understand more and more about who you are. So that's your identity map. And the last, I'm going to try to go through these quickly so I don't keep like going over from week to week, but your influence map. So that's the third map that I think you need to have. And that when we are talking about your personal brand. And again, we're going to start with your thinking. But you can use the same brain map assessment results to, there's some information in there we can pull out about influence, like how you influence people, that is different from your basic thinking pattern, right? Of course, if you have a certain thinking pattern, you are more likely to influence people in a certain way. But you want to be able to define the difference between the two. Because, I love it. Like most people treat personality assessments, if you take the DISC model or the Myers-Briggs or, any number of assessments that you may have taken at your job or in your college classes, we'll take the results and treat them like horoscopes, right? I'm an Aries, I'm a this, I'm a that, and not really dig in too deep. And what I want to encourage you to do is I want you to get the results, but then I want you to dig in, and it's over time, right? We're going to learn how to use this information skillfully so that it can help you move forward and grow and just gain more confidence in your decisions and your actions every day, and help make you take more decisive action. And then, so we want to talk about your thinking around your influence. Like, how are you most interested? What kind of influencer do you want to be? Because we all are influencers to someone. Then the next one is objective. Each one of these kind of has 7 points, so I'm kind of running through them because we'll cover them more in depth. Meaning probably me in Vivid Talk Live and some other episodes, but also in the Productivity Workshop. But we want to do it with regards to you. I don't want to just talk about principle and ideas. I want to help you physically learn how to use this information. And then, so your objective, what kind of, if you are a certain type of an influencer, what is your objective when you are working, with other people, when you are building with what you're, and I think that also can speak to, it helps you start thinking about who your unique person, your customer profile. We talk about that all the time, your personal, your who this person is you're trying to reach. It'll help you start thinking about that. And then what are your roadblocks to the influence that you want to have? For me, for 3 years, one of the roadblocks that I had was that I was concerned about being boring on the Vivid Talk live show. I was like, I don't want to be boring, and I never want to be boring. But that roadblock, that was kind of a fear that became a roadblock, and that roadblock blocked me from actually starting the show, right? And I could be boring, but if I never start, I'll never discover what is boring about what I'm doing, and then I wouldn't have the energy and the time and wouldn't be able to put forth the effort to even figure out how I could fix that. So I think knowing what your roadblock is gives you a way to, it gives you something that you can use to get around it, right? It doesn't mean the block that it disappears. It just means you need to learn a way to deal with it. But if you don't know that it's there, right? If you don't even recognize it, then you're basically helpless. And so we want to eliminate that. Right. Until I did the show, I wouldn't have known whether I was boring or how to not be boring. Right. And so I'm growing and learning, and you would do the same thing. And then the other piece of your influence map is really thinking about how you are perceived by others. And I just had a conversation with a friend of mine. I'm surrounded by all these prophetic men and women who just really can read you. Right? They can read a situation. These people tend to be very, very blunt. And sometimes it can be feel abrasive and very difficult to hear what they have to say. But they are so insightful that their voice is valuable, and you need these kinds of people in your life. But they could be perceived, and we were talking about the positive and the negative, which I mentioned earlier, the positive side and the negative side of every gift that we have. There is a negative. So I might be perceived by others negatively one way, like I might hear, or positively. You may hear something over and over again from people. So I think if you listen to what you've heard, and again, and I want to caution, just because somebody has said some negative thing about you, or people have said it over and over, that doesn't mean that's a bad thing, right? The negative thing that you might hear over and over again could be a sign. It could be point you toward your gift, because I have a heavy administrative motivation. I'm the one that's always trying to organize something, bring order, whatever. I've been called a control freak. So if somebody calls you a control freak, that could be a sign, right? Because people who are very organized and administrative and operational, and who are builders, of course they would be more controlling in the way they think, because they want to control the direction and put together materials and bring together people to get to a result. So you have to control certain amount of the elements, as you go. So on the negative side, though, that can feel oppressive to other people. So I think if you can hear just objectively from, listen to what people have said about you over the years, or what they're saying about you now, objectively, that can help you. If it's so negative that it's causing problems in your relationships, though, then it's a way for you to figure out how to course correct and make that, but not change who you are. I think you have to understand more fully how you function on all sides, and from every direction, negative, positive, in the middle. What is it, about you? And that's what you have to do with a part of your influence map. The other piece is messaging. So if I am going to influence, what kinds of words are just some instinctive to me? I did an exercise a few weeks ago at a conference, and they had a list of page of words, maybe like 40, 50 words. And it went through and said, okay, you got to pick your top 20. Go through here and pick these 20 words. Then we had to narrow it down to 10. Then we had to narrow it down to 5. And they said, okay, these 5 words are how you want people to feel when they read your content. And I was like, oh, that's so sweet. And so I think messaging in your influence map is about the same thing. We're not talking about writing long plans, like 50, 100-page plans. I'll get you there eventually. But right now, when we're talking about creating these maps, they literally are like bullet points and steps and sections and just charting 5 points, 6 points here, 3 points there. It's not a lot. So I think in your influence map, we want to kind of hone in on those 4 or 5 words that are key to the messaging, for your messaging in general. And then the other is your role in groups. In my college, my undergraduate years, I remember taking this psychology class, and there was an exercise we did where the professor asked everybody to line up in the room, in the whole class, in the order of the most powerful and the most in person in the room or whatever. And I was blown away that pretty much everybody in the class got behind me. And I was like, wait, it shocked me. But so my role in groups apparently is leadership. And then and it's not even, I don't even have to be the leader. I just want to be able to make a difference. So if I see a hole, I'll step into it. And I think, so my role in groups tends to be that of advancing, that of I can kind of bring everybody to a consensus. I can narrow down all the elements to the most specific and like the most, I don't know, the least common denominator. That's kind of has been a pattern in my life. But you have to understand what's your role in groups. Right? Because that's a part of how you influence. So you may be someone who prefers to be in the background. I like to be in the background in certain situations, but even my background, there's a certain element of leadership in how I do it. So I think you have to understand the depths of that for you. And then the other piece is your ultimate point of influence. And we'll help you determine that in the Flip Productivity Workshop. And then the last, and I'm literally just going to read these, and where are we? Yeah, I'm way over. So I'm going to go ahead and read these. But the last piece is your impact map. And impact, you know what? I take that back. I'm not going to rush it. I'll just go ahead and we'll finish it up next week. But I, again, want to really help you understand how you can develop your personal brand map by focusing in on, it's called technically the flip map, your mission, vision, and values. But I think that speaks to productivity in general. And we've been talking about productivity for a while now with regard to your vision. But I think your mission, vision, and values is really more of a productivity map. Okay. I think we can kind of call those 3 things that. Then understanding just intrinsically who you are and your key core function, personality traits, and that leads you to your ultimate calling. And some other people may call it your life's work. That may be what you're building. And then the other piece is the next is your influence map. How do you want to impact other people? And I think that's very important because there's so many different ways. And when you don't want to waste too much time comparing yourself to how everybody else is doing something. You really want to focus in on what is it you're doing. And there may be someone that you admire who's living out what you believe is as closest to who you are as possible. But even then, even when you feel this closeness to them and feel like they're doing exactly what you want to do and be, you are still unique, and you have more depth and to who you are that you need to define and bring out, because that's what the world needs, because we already have one of them, right? And then your impact. And the impact, I think it's almost like, running through the finish line, leaning into it rather than backing up, right? We want to get to the finish and really understand the impact we're trying to get to, and the impact we're trying to make with what it is we're building. And so all of those things are very different dimensions of who you are and of what I believe should be your personal brand map. And I want to help you develop that, and stick with me through Vivid Talk Live every week, Wednesdays 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, live every week, unless I just have to do something else. But every week I'm committed to creating this content to help you grow and personally and professionally, and that means entrepreneurially primarily. Like, this is for people that are trying to build and trying to go somewhere, and I know that that is you. So make sure you are following at Gwen Fuchsius on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Periscope, and Gwen Witherspoon Coach on YouTube. And then subscribe. Visit my website, gwenwitherspoon.com/subscribe to subscribe to Vivid Talk News. So every week I'm releasing a new blog post, a new quiz that you can use to help you learn more about yourself, and then other tools. And then we have the Flip Productivity Workshop coming up on December 27th. So go ahead and register for that, and you'll get a copy of my brand new and revised, newly redesigned version of the Flip book, and some other tools that's really going to help move you forward and make your vision vivid. See you next week. Bye-bye.